Think back to a moment right after you snapped at a friend, gossiped about a coworker, or delivered a harsh criticism you immediately regretted. That sinking feeling usually comes with a promise to do better next time. But what if that slip of the tongue was not a personality flaw? Traditional Chinese medicine maps these verbal missteps directly to physical organ imbalances. This flowchart illustrates the biological pipeline. It starts with internal ordination, which distorts your thought patterns and ultimately erupts as a toxic verbal habit. Over the next 5 minutes, we are going to build your personalized 5-element speech detox routine to target and clear these specific habits. Because to permanently change how you communicate, you have to heal the physical engine driving your words. Step 1 is identifying your target. Grab a notepad and write down the single negative speech habit you struggle with the most. This graphic shows the 5-element wheel used in traditional Chinese medicine. Each element corresponds to a specific organ, and each organ governs a very distinct style of communication. The earth element, rooted in the spleen, governs gossip and complaining. The wood element and the liver drive anger and criticism. The fire element, tied to the heart, controls impulsive, dramatic speech. The metal element and the lungs control cold, rigid judgment. Finally, the water element and the kidneys dictate insecure, defensive mocking. Look at the habit you wrote down. You have just diagnosed the exact internal organ you need to target for your detox. If your issue is gossip, we start with the earth element. In TCM, a weak spleen generates what is called dampness, a heavy, viscous state that makes your thoughts sticky. You ruminate, and that repetitive thinking easily turns into chronic complaining. When your spleen is physically fatigued, your mental restraint weakens alongside it. The mind keeps circling the same stories, and oversharing becomes a habitual outlet to relieve the pressure. Here is the visual checklist for your arth routine. To clear this dampness, cut back on your sugar intake and strictly enforce silence when you feel physically tired. Pair those physical steps with a mental technique called thought stopping. When you notice a familiar complaint looping in your head, actively interrupt the thought before you give it a voice. Clearing spleen dampness frees your mind from those circling stories, which naturally starves the physiological urge to gossip. For those struggling with sharp criticism, the wood element is your focus. Stagnant liver qi builds internal pressure until your mouth acts as a release valve, turning your words into weapons. If your speech is fast, uncontrolled, and needlessly hurtful, you are dealing with the fire element. An imbalanced heart fire causes your conscious expression to flare up aggressively before you can think. This split screen shows the internal shift we need to make. On the left, a constricted liver and an erratic heart create verbal chaos. On the right, physical intervention restores them to a smooth, steady rhythm. To achieve that steady rhythm, here is your wood routine. Add 5 minutes of vigorous physical movement to your day. This forces stagnant frustration out through your body instead of your mouth. For your fire routine, implement a strict 3-second pause before responding to any trigger. This brief window cools the internal heat before the words form. Intentionally venting your physical energy and regulating your breath extinguishes the biological flames that cause aggressive speech. If you catch yourself constantly comparing or using defensive mocking to feel superior, you are looking at the water element. This is a defense mechanism triggered meek kidney qi and hidden internal fear. Alternatively, if you lean toward rigid, pessimistic complaints about how others should behave, the metal element is at fault. Unprocessed sadness disturbs the lungs, resulting in cold judgment. Both of these imbalances require gentle, energetic restoration to clear out emotional blockages and soothe the affected organs. Your water routine starts tomorrow morning. Write down 3 specific personal strengths. This daily practice builds your inner willpower, known as Z, and gradually eliminates the root of jealousy. For the metal routine, practice 5 minutes of daily diaphragmatic breathing. Expanding the lungs physically helps release held grief and softens those rigid judgments. Fortifying your personal willpower and actively releasing grief removes the underlying psychological and physical need to tear other people down. Now that we have addressed the individual elements, we apply the TCM golden rule of speech. Earth must anchor wood and fire. This diagram illustrates what anchoring means in practice, relying on grounded, rational thought to suppress volatile emotions and sudden verbal outbursts. To do this, you need a replacement protocol. The moment you feel the urge to criticize or gossip, you must force an immediate physical state shift. Take a sip of water. Take a deep breath. Then, force yourself to formulate one objective, kind observation about the situation. Replacing a harmful word with a constructive one at the exact moment of physical intervention is the critical bridge between your organ health and healed communication. You have now completed your personalized 5-element speech detox routine. Here is the comprehensive checklist covering the daily actions for all 5 elements. Take a screenshot of this so you have it ready. You possess the exact blueprint showing how your specific organ weaknesses drive your negative speech patterns. Your challenge is to implement your targeted daily habit tomorrow morning. Transform your internal health, and your words will naturally become tools for healing.